Welcome to Tuesday Debates. It's 2 a.m. in Dubai. I'm about to get on my flight back to the US, but I'm currently in CryptoKid's office, and we're going to be talking about investing at a young age. First, we're going to introduce our speakers today. CryptoKid, Craig. We have a few new people as well, so I'm going to let them all introduce themselves.
Hello.
First of all, thank you for letting me join your office today.
I'm good. I think I'm just gonna have to hear you from the next studio because I think your audio may not be working, which is possible.
Oh, really? Can you
But
guys
maybe
hear?
we can
Can you
ask
hear
the
me now?
comments if the chat can hear your audio. So I can hear you because you're in the next room. So I'm gonna have to just take off my headphones. But yeah, I'm doing
Oh, are you
fine.
serious? Oh,
Yeah.
wait a minute. Can you hear me? Can you hear me on your end?
Totally fine. Yeah, I can hear you totally fine.
Ah, you can hear fine. Okay,
Kid.
cool. Maybe it's just me then. That's perfect.
Okay, well, how about you guys introduce yourselves? We have one more guest after you two. CryptoKid, everybody.
Dana, what I'm
Crypto
gonna
knows
do is
who
I'm
you
gonna
are.
just open the door between us so that I can hear you better. Okay, so just give me 1 second.
Okay. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself first? We've spoken. I mean, you're a business guy, but I want you to give your background a little bit briefly before we go into investment at a young age.
Sure. Well, I've sort of have a sort of marketing agency that doubles as an investment firm. Also have a YouTube channel with another guest that's coming on in a second, kind of in memory of my late father. But that's kind of a brief overview. I've taken most of my knowledge from him. He started at a very young age, and I'm trying to implement a lot of his things that he taught me when I was 14. Didn't go to uni, and I've been publishing that on the YouTube channel. And then now I have a marketing agency for public companies that I also make investments in. And that's kind of how it goes.
Yeah, thanks for coming. I know it's late for you on your end too.
yeah, trying to think at the same time.
Hi, Craig. Thanks for joining us. Can you tell us about yourself? You have a really interesting background. I was reading your Wikipedia earlier. There's more things I don't know about you, but I've also heard that you have some really unique stories for us in your early days. So can you give us a brief background of you?
Sure. Well, thanks for the invite, Dana. I started investing at a very young age. I was 15 when I started investing in the options market in London, which was brand new at the time. So I started doing that, and then went on to found various businesses and grew my businesses by making acquisitions back in the 90s. And I went on to do larger and larger acquisitions. And today I'm back to being an investor, and got a principal trading company, and as well as doing the YouTube channel with Hector, and still do venture capital investing.
Very cool. So we're talking about this since we're in Dubai right now for Binance Week, and also Finance Week in Dubai, and then MENA. So there's a lot of people talking about, finance and investing. And CryptoKid is one of the youngest that I know who is investing in at 11 years old. And the joke was, well, what were you doing at 9? Why weren't you investing earlier? 5. What were you doing at 5?
Yeah, I can't sleep at night. I wish, yeah, I could have started younger, dude. If I got it in 2017, things would have been different, but it is what it is.
I don't think I've got an excuse, but I think in Craig's world, you weren't allowed to invest below a certain age. So, but now we've got crypto. So yeah, I didn't have an excuse, but maybe he does.
I'm here with Ben Cowan, who I don't know if you guys know who he is, but he's also he has an analytics background, and he has a crypto finance channel. And he was telling CryptoKid, well, we'll just have to go ahead and drop this as a missed opportunity and move on. You could have been investing at 9 or 5, but whenever you start is good enough.
Well, I think it's never too early, but you got to learn early, and you learn from the mistakes you're going to make when you're young. So you have no responsibilities when you're young, so it's the best time to start.
When did you first start investing, Craig?
I was around 15 and I started investing. The London trade options market had just started, so there were no options in London that were traded back then. And I started when I was 15, opened an account with a broker at the time and didn't have any money, obviously, as a kid. But fortunately, back then, there was a 20 working day account period, so you could buy the options you're going to buy, and you had 4 weeks to pay for them. So you were kind of hoping to make a profit in that 4 weeks. Unfortunately, I did, and the broker sent me a check. I think the first one was about £2,000, and I was hooked in investing after that.
Wow.
So you were also the owners of the Rangers football team. Is that right?
Yes, that's right. I bought Rangers Football Club about 12 years ago now, and owned it for a fairly short period. But it was I would advise anyone not to invest in professional sports clubs. It's not the best investment, and it's not there's no logic involved in that kind of business at all.
So there was I don't remember who it was, but there's someone who bought a baseball team for $1 billion, was told that he was really nuts, and then he went ahead and flipped it for $3 billion, something like that. Do you know who I'm talking about, Craig?
I don't know that one, but he obviously did well out of it. Yeah.
Yeah. So everyone told him he was really crazy, but he ended up selling the ads rights. So that's why it ended up working really well for him. But otherwise, you think like investing in a team is bad, or sports is bad? Why is that? I mean,
there are so many variables, and anything that applies to normal business doesn't apply to a professional sports team. You know, for a start, you have to pay millions to buy players. You have these guys who are earning millions of dollars per year for turning up. They start training for an hour every day, and then they play on a weekend. And there are too many variables that are way outside your control. You can't control what the players do on the park. You can't control what the results are, and the results are where the money comes from, because you have to win tournaments and be in the case of the team that I was involved in, you have to be in European competitions. And if you don't get into that particular European competition, that's the difference between making, in the case of Rangers at the time that I was there, if we get into when the years we were in the European competitions, the club made around 10 million a year. If it didn't qualify for the European competitions, it lost 10 million a year. So it was almost life or death between getting into the European competition or not.
So, when did you guys all start investing? At what age? Let's just go around.
Who do you want to start with?
Crypto kid.
Okay,
What age?
So I started. Well, actually, I did musical theater and voice acting when I was from 7 to 11. I mean, I've always been very theatrical, and I wanted to be on screen and perform, and that was my thing. And then the pandemic hit, and everything just sort of came to a stop. And at that point, I mean, I was okay with school, but I just didn't like the fact that you had to excel in every academic subject. And I didn't like every academic subject. I didn't want to do math, but I loved geography or I loved drama. And I realized that if I wanted to go to a good university, I have to be the very best in all the different subjects. And that wasn't for me. So I always wanted to do something different to my peers. I wanted to stand out. And I saved up like $1,000, $2,000 from voice acting. And I was on YouTube one day and I was searching, okay, how can I invest into the markets? Because that seemed like a concept where, okay, I can take this money and potentially make more with it, but I had no idea what the markets were. And while searching, I came across a video from Raoul Pal, who is a very famous crypto analyst. And this was late 2019. And he was speaking about Ethereum. Back then, the price of Ethereum, I think, was $300-400. And he said, this thing can go to thousands of dollars. And that hooked me. I was like, okay, there's clear opportunity here, and I just need to figure out what this is. So I went into the rabbit hole of, okay, Ethereum, cryptocurrency, what are cryptocurrencies, what are altcoins, what is Bitcoin? And it was also so fascinating. And shortly after, I went and taught myself technical analysis, began trading, convinced my dad to open a brokerage account, and told him that I just want to invest the money that I've made. So for 6 months, I was sort of teaching myself in trading, and I was going to seminars that were hosted in Dubai by the traders that I was following on YouTube. And they said, hey, you know what? You like crypto, you like technical analysis, you like being on screen, you like performing. Why don't you start your own YouTube channel? Therefore, if you do videos, then you can sort of learn better yourself because you're forced to go to the markets, research, build a narrative, deliver that to an audience on a daily basis. And if you do that every single day, then you're going to become a very knowledgeable person yourself. And I was like, okay, this sounds cool. So I started my channel in 2021, and I've been doing that for the past 4 years. It's called Crypto Kid. We have over 100,000 crypto kids, and we talk about markets and where they're going to go and breaking news. So yeah, I started investing, I would say 12, 13, but I think, when I started working, it was actually like 7, 8, 9. So yeah, that's me.
What do you mean 7, 8, 9? You were working at 70.
Well, I was doing like performances. I wasn't getting paid much. I think like $200 per show that I did, and it was like 6 hours of rehearsals every single day. It was absolutely nuts. But yeah, I started working stupidly young.
That's insane. I was like, is CZ on here? We were just on CZ's yacht yesterday. This guy is, thank you so much. Bullish. I just like, I forget how young Crypto Kid is. It makes me feel very incompetent because at
I'm
your
so
age,
sorry for being a little bit slow as well in my speech. It's just, I think in the stream you may see me like sort of doze off, and like I may feel like I'm falling off a plane and just bring myself back. So I apologize. I want 2 hours of sleep.
well, you were speaking at Bitcoin Mina, and then you drove to Abu Dhabi, then you came back, then you're doing another. Like, you work very hard, and you also
Thank you.
invest. But I think the sad part is people spend so much time working, and the reality is if you just like Craig is probably like, yeah, I could have told you guys this. If you just spend your time figuring out what you should invest in, then you don't have to. You probably should, because that's where you're going to get the most upside. I mean, would you say that's the case, Craig? I kick myself because I look at especially people who learned how to invest at such a young age. I feel like I missed out a lot by not doing this younger.
Yeah, I mean, fortunately, when I was young, crypto wasn't around because I think I'd have been totally addicted to trading 24/7, which you couldn't do in the normal markets. You can't do in the normal markets, but I can see the adrenaline rush of markets being available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, which so I can totally understand why Crypto Kid gets addicted like that and was in it at such a young age, and I think it's amazing. But yeah, I mean, you have to try and get some balance and focus on the things that you know something about. So if you try and focus on at least one area of the market. If you're in stocks, decide if you want to focus on oil or on precious metals or on commodities or whatever you're going to focus on, and focus on that. But yeah, I mean, it's the markets are a very exciting place to be. Particularly if you, and also you have to decide are you going to be a trader or are you going to be an investor? They're two quite different things, really.
Okay, is it a better idea to be a trader or an investor in 2025 at this point in the market when everyone thinks that we're in a bear market?
Yeah, I think it's also down to personality. I mean, I think if you're more conservative, you're an investor, and when you're young, I think you kind of crave the excitement of being a trader. I certainly did when I was younger, and even today I still enjoy trading. But you have to have you can have your trading account and your investment account, which I think many people do, and that is a good strategy. And you don't mix the two.
So we focus on Bitcoin, crypto, that sort of thing. But what are you focused on then now? And are there any AI stocks that you're looking at?
I'm not investing in AI stocks. Nowadays I trade short term trade the markets, the market futures. But my longer term positions are in precious metals. I invest in gold. I invested in Bitcoin actually fairly early on, back in 2013, when it was still under $300. So I tend not to trade crypto. I've basically been an investor in that, but precious metals are my first love, if you like. So I spend a lot of time looking at precious metals. and Hector and I have been talking about gold for the last year. When we're up 50% in gold this year, we're into platinum about 1,200. It's up at 1,700 now. And other commodities like uranium, for example, is also an interesting commodity this year. And it's trying to look at things that are a little bit off the beaten track as well.
I'd say we have also covered quite a few AI stocks on our YouTube channel as well, and actually they've done pretty well. But we often don't take our advice on some of these other plays that we say are good. But there's a number of companies we focus on, those kind of trading below their asset value or their cash. And the good thing about obviously having the regulated market is you can actually see those audited accounts, actually see where the companies should be trading. And if they've got some interesting IP, then there's a growth story as well. But if you can go in discount to what they've already got, it's kind of, that's what we call the channel acquisition. Like, would you acquire that company? And often the case is yes, if they're trading at such a discount. That's kind of because some of the companies we've done. I mean, we did 5 stocks trading below their cash in the bank on our channel, and I think out of the 5 of them, 4 of them rose 300%, which is, and the other one went down, but 4 of them rose a good amount. And I think some of those were AI ones. One of them was called Mind Flare. That's actually still a good one at the moment. But there's plenty there.
It's interesting about the markets that you can actually in the stock market you can actually buy certain companies that have got more cash in the bank than the market capitalization. So you can, if you can buy a large stake in a company, you can almost buy it for free in certain cases.
So you've been doing pretty well then this year. Crypto Kid and I recently had a dinner with Peter Schiff. I don't know if you follow him, but he's a big gold guy.
Yeah.
Nice. Very cool.
So, what?
He's not much into crypto. I don't think he's. I've listened to somebody. Didn't he debate CZ on Bitcoin?
Yeah, well, at the conference, CZ gave him a bar of gold, and he told him, what do you think about this bar of gold? And he said, "Oh, it's really nice." And he said, "Well, can you tell me if it's real?" And that kind of ended the debate.
Yeah, it's I'm not sure how much of his Bitcoin hate is actually just for clicks, because he seems to have set himself up as the Mr. anti Bitcoin, whereas I think in my mind there's a good case for both. I think you want to be in both of them, but Peter Schiff's certainly an interesting guy.
Well, he did say that if I kind of regret not buying Bitcoin, because I should have bought Bitcoin as a hedge against, okay, maybe I'm wrong, and there are a bunch of idiots in the world that actually want to buy into this thing, and it goes up. So he was purely thinking from the perspective that, okay, there's going to be idiots that end up buying this thing, and he just had too much optimism in humanity. That's what he says. So that was the reason why he didn't buy Bitcoin. But I did get him to admit that Bitcoin is better than Fartcoin. So at least he thinks it's better than one asset.
Yeah, no, it's fascinating. Well, I don't think anyone could have conceived of Bitcoin being over $100,000 back 10, 12 years ago. I don't think anybody was thinking in those terms, and nobody would have taken you seriously if you had predicted that back when it was trading in the hundreds. So. But it's been an incredible ride, and maybe anyone that's a trader has got to enjoy the volatility of crypto, and the large cap ones in particular.
It's quite easy to read based on the technicals. I mean, you can probably speak from experience, Crypto Kid. I think it's the 50-week moving average and the 200 on a daily time frame. It follows it very, very nicely, and if you just trade with it or against it, then it's not too hard.
If you look at a lot of people say in the conference, they were saying that the 4-year cycles are dead, but it's just you've done the same thing over and over again, 1,064 days from bottom to top for the past 3 cycles now. And if you look at the structural correlation between this cycle and the last cycle, it's pretty much exactly the same. You fall below, like you said, the 50-week simple moving average, and in approximately 40 to 70 days, you retest it in all cases, And from there you get a rejection. But me and Ben, we were talking yesterday, and we were trying to sort of figure out where things are going to go. And unlike 2021, even though the structure of the market seems very similar, and we think that the 50-week is going to get tested and rejected, instead of seeing the huge crash we saw from the mid 40s down to 15K, I think we're going to consolidate like the 2019 peak, because we just didn't have a euphoric top this time around. If you look at liquidity, liquidity is down through the floor. There's absolutely no liquidity in the market, and because there was no liquidity, we didn't get any retail euphoria. So we didn't get that euphoric top. Therefore, we're not going to get that euphoric or that very, very pessimistic dump. So I think we're going to see a consolidation, and then starting Q4 next year, we start to see that incline again.
Yeah, we actually made a video at 123K saying that we thought the market was going to crash / consolidate. And it did. I mean, we didn't think it was going to happen on the day we made the video, and actually did on the day. But I think I agree with you. I think it's not going to be like a euphoric crash in the same way you have a euphoric run. It's more like a consolidation, or not. I don't want to say struggle, but it might trade, sideways for a while, and people have just got to accept that'll be the case. And that's kind of what Ethereum was like before it had its move, lagging behind Bitcoin. But yeah.
So, Greg, I mean, a lot of people I know in Bitcoin or investment, they're always like, well, you need an inflow of capital to invest in something. And you've done, business deals and high risk business deals. What do you think is something that you learned dealing with the Rangers and structuring, a high risk deal? What would you do, or what would you advise other people who are kind of navigating like a similar situation, not even similarly, but like, what have you learned from that?
Did you have Jamie Vardy on your team by any chance, Craig?
Not when I was there. Not when I
Okay.
was part of the club. But yeah, we had a lot of interesting players there. One of the Rangers, one of the biggest football clubs in Europe, and yeah, we played in all the European competitions, and yeah, we had some with a great team. But to go back to your question, Dana, yeah, in terms of making acquisitions, it's not that different from normal investing. You have to find something that you actually want to be in. You're looking at the balance sheet of the company, and you're trying to buy an income stream, a future income stream. And if you can buy that for, from my point of view, which is, this is not the way that everybody does it. From my point of view, I want to be buying a business at around about the asset value. So you're totally secure. So you're buying a business at around about the asset value, and you're getting an income stream which you want to pay. It depends on the business sector that you're in, but buying a private company, you're going to have a much lower valuation than a public company, which is why it's so profitable to buy it. Take a private company and take it public. So you buy a private company, you're probably able to buy it on something like 6 times earnings, sometimes less, depending on if you find the right circumstances. And then if you can grow that, take it public, you're going to get more like 14, 15 times earnings. So there's a nice arbitrage there. But my advice to anyone buying private companies is obviously you've got to do a lot of due diligence before you get involved in it, and you've got to try and get it as close to the asset value as you can, and you've got to try and get warranties from the sellers that what they're selling you is in fact what you're getting, which is where a lot of deals can go wrong.
Yeah, there's so few people who would be able to speak on that in the way that you can. 'Cause it's not something you can just go ahead and Google. Like it's really an experience situation.
Yeah, you've got so many variables, because you're buying a company that's maybe decades old, and you just don't know what the liabilities are under the hood until you get in there in a lot of cases. So it's important that you have some kind of warranty from the buyer, or you hold back some of the payments. So if you're paying £10 million to buy a company, for example, try and pay 50 or 60% of it at the start, and spread the rest out over 2 or 3 years to make sure that what you've actually got is what the seller said you were getting, because often it's not.
You also touched on sort of no money down deals before. Obviously, that requires quite a lot of intelligence and maybe some some good solicitors and that to make sure, like you say, you can verify the assets are there and maybe they could be used as security in the transaction. But is there anything you can say on that front?
Yeah, of course. I mean, if you can put as little money down as possible, that is going to protect your downside. Everything that you're doing, whether it's investing in a private company, buying the whole share capital of a private company, or investing in public companies, you want to always minimize your risk. So it's obvious the less money you put down, the more your risk is minimized. So you certainly want to be pretty aggressive on the negotiations when you're going to buy a business. And keep in mind, when you're buying private businesses, there's no liquidity in the market for those. So you get cases in an ideal world, you want to find a distressed seller, a seller the distressed seller where they haven't got the cash flow to continue with the business easily, they can't get bank funding. Other types of scenarios, someone dies, for example, the estate's under pressure to sell a business, things like divorce and so on, where someone needs liquidity quickly. These are opportunities to buy businesses at good prices, and because there's no liquidity in the market, you can go and do some pretty good deals. Particularly if we touched on earlier that there's potentially going to be a recession sometime soon. Now that's a great time to buy businesses, because that's when things liquidity really dries up. Then when there's a recession, and you can get some amazing deals for buying good quality private businesses, and it's something that I'd recommend that young people look at that closely, because it's an opportunity. And young people, they can take more risks for all sorts of reasons than older people can. So it's a great thing for them to get involved in, and when they don't have a lot to lose, so they can take those risks. And I think also when you're younger, you just prepare to take more risks than when you're older.
What's an example of one? You touched on one with me when I met you in Lisbon with the scaffolding company, but perhaps there's another one which I guess even kind of younger viewers watching might think, I could probably pull that off, or I can see how that works.
Well, I get information on deals all the time from various people that I've contacts I've built up over the years, and you see, I've seen deals in the past where they've got an asking price of £5 million, for example, for a business, and you say, well, it's not worth that. So you go and offer them 500,000, and you might not get it for 500,000, but you might get it for $1 million or less. So you can be pretty aggressive when you're looking at these kind of deals, because as I say, there's no liquidity in the market. It's not, if you've got a private business to sell, it's not as easy as just going to your broker and saying, I want to sell this. It can take many months or even years to sell a private business, because there's not a huge market for a lot of them.
I'm really curious about some unique not putting any money down for business deals. So this is, again, something I can't Google and look up, but something you would know very well. And I also think that probably some boomers or people are going to be selling off their businesses because they just want to retire. Sure. So like one way is to set up a business in a way where you're buying it, you're paying it off over 3 years or something like that. You involve the owner within those 3 years so that you're not just like doing something wrong, and you maintain the integrity of the business. But is there anything that through your experience that is just like a really good thing to know when structuring a no cost down for buying a business up front?
Well, all businesses are going to have assets. So even if you don't have any money to buy the business yourself, as younger people may not have a lot of cash available to them. It's normal. So, but the business you're buying is going to have assets. You might have sales invoices, for example, that are outstanding. So you can borrow against that. For example, it's a good source. Particularly if you've got a service business that's dealing with all the businesses, you might have a few 100,000 or a few million in debts owed, and you can easily go and discount those debts and get money to pay for the business. Also, a business might have machinery, or might have all sorts of assets, which again you can potentially borrow against those assets to buy the business. So that's certainly something that anyone looking to get into that kind of field should be should be looking at. Yeah, and always minimize your risk. Look at using other people's money where you can.
Well, and the American owners of Man United, didn't they buy Man United off of future ticket sales or season tickets for the club as well, or a big portion of
they did some fairly aggressive financing, and they've done very well at that over the years. But they did some very aggressive financing because a club like Manchester United's got a great brand and it's got a lot of assets, and they used those fairly aggressively to get control of the business, and then they put it on NASDAQ and created liquidity from that too. So yeah, they did well at that. Although I don't think the supporter base likes them very much, but I think if you're going to buy a football club or any sports franchise, you kind of have to ignore the fan base because your interests are not really aligned to a certain extent.
Yeah.
So I'm a kid and I'm looking to get some cash, invest early. What business should I buy? Should I have my own business? If you ask Gary Cardone, he's with his daughter right now, so hopefully he'll be joining. But I don't think he's going to be joining. So we'll do another follow up with him. But he would say, yeah, start your own business, get some sort of cash inflow, or you buy a business like Craig was talking about. And then what am I going to invest in? And am I investing in the long run, or am I just going to try to make money really fast because AI is coming and working is going to be not a requirement in 20 years. So how about just YOLO and try to make as much money as possible and hope that you strike it rich?
I think Crypto Kid can do both basically at the moment. Would you say?
Okay. Well, so this is what I would say. I think that starting your own business and obviously acquiring a business young is the way to go. You have to have passive income. You have to have cash flow. Without cash flow or passive income, you can't invest. But I think why right now there is this interest in trying to get rich quick is just simply savings per capita is at an all-time low. Mortgage delinquencies are at an all-time high. The reason why gambling rates are all-time highs and the reason why meme coins went so popular was people have small amounts of money. They are in a time where there's no liquidity and it feels like there are no opportunities. So you just want to gamble with whatever small money you have to try and turn it into big money. But that's not the way to become rich. Most the wealthiest people in the world are investors. And in fact, they're not traders actually. So I think trading is a good passive income. But what I do is I have my own media business. I do my trading. I have my own investments, and whatever money that I do make on a passive basis, I put that into Bitcoin, and I do that with a mentality of keeping it for the next 20 years. The great thing about being young is you have time. You have all the time in the world. Most people, like Ben, for example, he can't buy Bitcoin to think about the next 20 years, or Peter Schiff. They can't buy Bitcoin with the ability to hold it through the next 25 years. And after 25 years, they can liquidate the Bitcoin, still be healthy, still be fit, still have enough time to enjoy the wealth you've generated. So I think what young people should do is, one, get passive income, get cash flow. If you're not able to do that, then work somewhere for free to get knowledge and information and make contacts, and then monetize that into a business. And after you have that, invest it into Bitcoin, or at least that's what I've done. I mean, compound interest is the most powerful force in the universe, according to Albert Einstein. If something is appreciating by 20% per year on average, which Bitcoin over the past decade has done over 50%, that 20% per year return with $10 a day over the next 20 years is enough to give you millions of dollars. And obviously, the purchasing power of that money is not going to be the same as it is today, but you would have saved your money against inflation and you would have made money on top of it. And I think it will be enough for you to retire at least comfortably, or use that capital to supercharge it into a different business idea, so on and so forth. So I'm for passive income, and whatever passive income I make, I save it in Bitcoin. Bitcoin is my currency, and that's how I approach it.
It's a really good answer. I totally agree. I mean, we've done portfolio allocation videos on our channel. We've sort of said 10% maybe sort of cash or spending money for the year, 70% in commodities, and for you that might be Bitcoin, and then 20% we're saying you kind of fund money, investing in stocks and shares, But yeah, there's also I don't know if you've seen the short of the guy who has basically spends everything on credit cards, buys Bitcoin in the meantime, and just pays off his credit cards with the Bitcoin at the end of each month. And I think that's kind of
in
what
the bull
you're
market. In the bull market, it's a
Sounds like a lot
fantastic
of people I
concept.
know.
Because you're spending money, and then the next day you wake up, you're like, oh, it's back. You know. So in the bull market, it works beautifully, but in the bear market, that's
Yeah.
where you have the issue.
I know
Exactly,
someone
yeah.
who started a supplement company making turmeric, and he came to the United States from India, built a huge turmeric company, was selling at like these brick and mortar companies, was making like, I mean, a lot of like at first, before he did this, he came to the US and he said, oh, I discovered these like plastic square things and you could just use them and like get a house and get a car. I'm like, what do you mean, credit cards? He's like, yeah. And I was hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. And I realized, oh, I should probably make money now. And he was quite young. I mean, Crypto Kid, you're 18. But you've been doing this for several years. He was a little bit older than you, but I still consider him as pretty young. He got a fire under his butt, and then he learned how to start his own business. Started to then, make his whatever company, like exited for 300 million, and now invests. But it did start with starting his own business. But yeah, he was in debt, and a lot of people we know are like, well, you just use as much debt as you can to
for sure. It's a way to get started when you're young. If you need capital, then and it's available, then why not? If you're going to use it properly, the thing is, if you're using debt for something productive, then it's not a bad thing. If you use it just for consumption, then it obviously is a bad thing. But if you use debt for investing or for a productive business, then why not?
I heard a funny story earlier today, actually. A friend of mine, my cousin told me a friend of him borrowed 250k, bought a yacht with it, or small yacht, and then obviously he was totally broke, but I don't know how he managed to get the loan in the first place, and then just sailed away and didn't pay it back. So he's on the run currently, and apparently he's making TikToks and stuff.
What not to do.
Don't take this as inspiration, guys. This is not the right influence.
Oh my God. So I'm really happy you guys came today. I'm actually gonna have to get my flight back to the US, even though everyone here in Dubai is very young and doing quite well. Like every house I'm in has like a grand piano. So I'm like, I don't know what I was doing at 9 years old either. And I don't know why I was investing super early, because I could have my second house here. But do you think you could leave us with, okay, what are you looking at and investing right now? And if you're a kid, what can you be doing? Would you tell them, okay, just DCA, put $10 aside a day, like what Crypto Kid was saying earlier, and invest it in the market? Or would you say, well, invest it in yourself and, try to start a business right now in, 2025?
Well, I certainly all in favor of starting a business and using whatever means you can to get started in business, so that you're creating an income for yourself and then starting to invest after you've got that business and the income stream built up. But and as Crypto Kid touched on, I'd agree wholeheartedly that you should understand the power of compounding. Most people don't understand that. It's incredible people don't understand the power of compounding. And when you're young, it's such an important thing to understand. So you've really got to look at those compounding tables and find out how much money you have. If you can double your money every 2 or 3 months, you've got to have a lot of money in a very short time. So that is something that everybody needs to understand, and that, I think, is maybe the most important lesson for young people.
What about you two? Do you have anything to leave the audience?
I guess expanding on that, start a business, make sure your income is greater than your expenditure, obviously. Then maybe obviously don't live above your means with those credit cards, but maybe spend on credit cards, pay them off on 0% at the end of the month, get rewards on that. and then with that income, invest in gold, silver, commodities, things that are God's money, basically, that have been around for 5,000 years. Or if you're too scared to invest in gold right now, look at something that's maybe like another one, like, I don't know, platinum, palladium, silver is probably a good opportunity at the moment as well. So yeah, that's what I'll be doing.
And I would say, I think I mean, you guys have said, I think, the most important points already, but just to add a different perspective, I would try to find the thing that I love doing. I think over monetary wealth and monetary success, having passion for what you do and really enjoying what you do it's more rewarding in the long term. And if you can monetize it in a way where you can have a financially independent life, then I think you would have reached ultimate success. So try different things, try as many things as possible. I mean, I've done voice acting, musical theater, I played basketball, I wanted to do professional water polo at one point. And just through trying different things, I came to what I loved, and and I could take what I loved and monetize it so that I can have a financially independent life. So I'm very grateful to do what I love on a daily basis and make money from that. And I think that's what people should aim for. And it doesn't have to be what we're doing. It could be something completely different. Like maybe you want to do photography, maybe you want to do filmmaking. It could be absolutely anything. But just try things, because you have the freedom of time, and use that time to try as many things as you can, I would say.
Well, thank you guys. CryptoKid is AI. Actually, that's a new quick business tip. Everybody make an AI version of yourself and double your income. Everyone should follow these guys on X. Craig, you're on X.
Yes,
I
Craig
should
White
follow you
VC.
guys on X. Okay, I'll put your
you.
profiles below. Make sure you follow them. They're doing cool stuff. We do debates every Tuesday, 5 p.m. I'm going to go get my flight. And
brilliant comments as well. I love it. I'm loving them as well. Very good.
Cool. Make some good financial decisions. Thanks for coming, guys.
Thanks, Dana.
Cheers.
Cheers.